Yahoo, Prof here, and we've got another video for you guys. Package just came in. I've been setting up my laptop here, new laptop for work, and I've been doing that. I've been transferring all the files. The bigger thing is that big old list over there of configurations. As I've been using the new one, I've been like, oh yeah, I didn't bring over my settings for Word. You're like, settings for Word, yes, like save the computer by default instead of the whole OneDrive SharePoint nonsense. Um, you can turn off the splash screen. You can also turn off the backstage thing, where like when you hit Control S, it just saves rather than like pulling up a whole prompt and all that garbage. Stuff like that. Like all these little settings that I'm like, oh, and then this time, kind of like what I've been doing personally for my personal new laptop right here. When there's the kitten. Hey, Paisley Marie, how are you? How's Paisley? How are you? Same thing I've been doing while I've been setting this up is documenting the process. Because if I have to do this, I mean, like the previous laptop we've made last full 2 years, I've actually used the trackpad on the work laptop to the point where it's smooth. Shared a picture of that over on Twitter. But in the meantime, what came in today was this whole package here. Paisley, you cannot. That is the one chair you can't sit on. Paisley. Hey, can you get off? Hey, you can't sit on my Herman Miller Aeron. All the other kitties know that. Come on. If you guys are wondering, it's because of this mesh. I don't want cat claws causing issues with it. We got plenty of other chairs around here for them to sit on. Or here, Paisley, look. Come here. Looky here. Look in there. What's over there? Is that a little cat house? Is there a cat house? Is that a little cat house in there? Or do you want the little pom-pom? That's more interesting, isn't it? She really likes those. There's like 18 of them around the room here. I don't know where they all went. She's usually carrying one around, and when she goes to eat, she puts it in the food bowl. So you know where she's been eating. Because there'll be little mousies. Nothing else in there. I can use this to ship mine back. We'll just retape it up. And I gotta send the white XE back. XE wireless. Also VAXEE sent me a shirt. If you were one of their customers this year. Oh, it's under all here. See? VAXEE. Really nice, 100% cotton. Nice and thick t-shirt. But what we have here is the VAXEE Outset AX wireless. And what color do you think I got it in? Comments down below. That color is pink. AXP wireless. We got the pink sticker. Comes with the mouse and the dongle. Same dongle is compatible. I believe they're working on a 4K dongle. I think they were at one point looking into doing 2K on the current dongle as well. I don't know if that is still a thing or not. You know, with them developing a 4K dongle. Oftentimes they'll still do it. Like originally they were making the bungee as like a thing in the meantime until they could get out wireless mice, and then they ended up launching wireless mice before the bungee. I still haven't ordered a bungee. I really need to do that. They've definitely been improving their packaging. You can tell that these are actually made for their mice now. Whereas before it was like a generic box with just a foam cutout that they cut out to the shape of the mouse. However, you can tell that this is literally just used for every Outset AX. It makes sense. And they just put a sticker on it, like the colored sticker and the AXP wireless, as well as the ones on the back for the serial number, so they can like more generically package it. That's just some fluff that was on the desk. And yeah, so they can more generically package it. The other thing I was going to say, and I'll turn this off here is my daily driver. This is the XE yellow wireless. The white one has having scroll wheel issues. It's going back to them. They're going to replace it. I think David's going to get that one then. And I use my orange wired one at work because realistically for work, I don't need a giant mouse pad like that. I can get away with a 10 by 12 one, you know, so smaller than my Surface laptop there. And realistically, with moving that little bit, it doesn't matter. That's wired. So I don't have to remember to charge it too. So, but it's the same shape. The one thing I did do with Modern Warfare 3 coming out, if you look at that, there's a little bit of wear on those, but these were brand new feet a week ago. Found them in the box of my white that I was sending back, and I'm like, oh, well, let's get some new feet on the XE. This now is fully updated as well to the latest firmware, so it should have the same firmware that's on this one here. Because they always launch new firmware with their new mouse, generally. I mean, there can be updates in between there. But if they're adding any new features and that sort of stuff, you'll see it come on the new mouse first, and then I'll back patch it to the old ones. I believe the NP01S wireless got it as well. Just for reference, that is right here. Got that one in blue. Got this one in pink because this is the closest. Oh, that shape actually feels really, really good. This feels decently lighter too. I don't remember if it's supposed to be. They did also rework the plug on the front because if you for those that follow VAXEE, you would know back when the Outset was originally made, they didn't have this connection in mind yet, and it was just wired. And I actually have over here, not the original one, but the glossy. So consider this like the Gen 2. Because I haven't put it away yet still. That's why you've been seeing these in a bunch of videos. Because I haven't got the mouse box out and labeled it yet. So there we go. We got XE wireless. Originally only came out in black and white. Bought a white one, and then bought a yellow one because I already had an orange wired one. NP01S, not my favorite shape, a bit small for me. Their favorite FPS shape. They updated a number of things on it. Got like translucent side buttons. A new scroll wheel that feels much better than the original NP01S. And we have the Outset here. David really liked the Outset shape, and that's because he tends to use a palm grip but grips it further forward, which then having this nice big butt that's raised up off the ground. Like you can see, as these go along, each is more raised up than the other off the surface, and these are significantly raised up. But the interesting thing for how forward of a grip it is for a palm grip, it's a short mouse, so that means you don't need such a big, massive hand. So it's always a nice shape where you can see with how the butt is, it keeps the back part of your palm off the pad. And some people like or prefer that sort of a thing. Whereas I tend to like my hand flat, you know. That was the reason why I like the XE. It's because my entire hand on the sides and back is touching the mouse pad. And that's how I can use such quick glass pads or plastic pads, is because my hand is actually the thing. People are like, oh, I need the friction of the cloth pad or whatever. My hand is what can provide that. That makes sense. See, we're touching and everything. Whereas if we look at something like this XE, hey, what is going on? King Arthur, did you go beyond playing? Yeah, somebody seemed rather upset. Oh, and Paisley's going in to get spayed tomorrow. She doesn't know that necessarily, though. But so all the cats get to fast tonight because she can't have food and water before her surgery. Yeah, that's the big thing about the Outset AX here is if you look, it lifts your entire like hand because of how this the buttocks of this curves up, right? So for people who are more or who prefer that, it's here for you. Now, to me, it looks like this got slimmed down. Maybe not. Ooh, listen to that. This is their optomechanical one, and apparently they made this decision to save battery life, which I'm kind of surprised at. This is back to a mechanical rather than an optical encoded scroll wheel. I personally prefer the mechanical ones. That's why when I saw that the XE was going, and this was originally going to be like a gaming X productivity mouse, like that sort of thing, like a general use mouse, and it's probably why I really like the shape. But they went back to a mechanical scroll, and I just find they're way more reliable for me. They do a better job of, like, when I press down, they go down. Because with the optical ones, the click mechanism isn't tied to the moving part. Like, theoretically, it should be. But, right, I'm just saying, the same mechanism that makes it make a click noise or makes it feel bumpy, that's making it feel bumpy or making the click sound is not actually what tells the mouse to scroll. There's a little optical sensor that checks between, like, dots and dashes. So can light go through or can't it? And that's when it'll actually, like, that sensor is what tells it to scroll, not the... And sometimes I somehow get it between steps regularly. Just what happens to me. I personally really like glossy mice, so this grips super well for me. I have very, I'm gonna say like not oily, and I have acidic sweat, right? So that is why for me, like, soft touch never worked. Now this finish from VAXEE on the colored variants works very well for me. From what I understand and from my own experience, because I have the white version of the XE, the white and black now are no longer like the original mice, where like the white is a gloss finish and the black is where you can't even see the seams. Like they did a really nice gloss finish. This is kind of old school, but I've always loved it because of how sweaty my hands are and how acidic the sweat is. Like if you give me a normal, I love the textured clicks like this. Like often I'll put grip tape just on the clicks. Now sadly, as they went to the like colored finishes, they've ditched the textured clicks, and I don't know if that just wasn't a favorite of fans, but like ideally like this style where it's glossy body and textured non-painted for clicks and buttons that's like my perfect mouse right there when it comes to finishes. My hand just grips this so well. It's you're like, how do you grip glossy better than like just this textured like a standard plastic mouse or like a painted smoother finish like this, where this isn't soft touch, it's just like a painted finish on there. And I don't know, it's something about like your little fine grooves of your fingertips and something, but like I actually, especially once you're in game, like you almost got to sweat these in a little bit from my experience. Like game for like a good night or two on them and get them like if you sweat like I do, get them like real sweaty. And then what happens is like the finish or whatever. I don't know if you're actually gripping your own like grossness or something, but they get really grippy. So I'm kind of sad that they went away from the textured clicks, because even the black ones had that. And I really, like I said, I added that to, like, if you look at my Rival 106s, those have grip tape and only on the clicks. Because I find myself slipping like this. I've actually found that on the XE now I think about it. Maybe I should try some grip tape on it. I'd want to do clear, just to not wreck the whole look of these, because VAXEE really does get the vibe. You know, if we ignore this one here. And the orange is amazing. Like, I can see why orange is #1 color from them. And I feel like with VAXEE, also color-wise, you have the like, you get two options in my opinion. Option 1, find the color you like and buy. Like, if you're buying multiple versions, you know, like XE, NP01S, Outset, buy them all in orange, or buy them all in yellow, buy them all in blue. I've seen people do that. Or how I'm doing it is I'm buying them all in a different color. And the reason why we ended up pink is because the Divinia Edition EC2 I have is a pink one. And I have a Iron Steel Series Ikari Laser Iron Lady as well in pink. One thing I do like seeing as well is they are using the blue tape on the mouse feet now. They have switched to doing that. I forget what was used previously, but because of the whole thing that happened with Linus Tech Tips and, like, very obviously, and other people, like, you've seen in our videos before where we've missed tape, or David's mentioned missing tape, or I've mentioned missing tape. It happens. So they really need to use, like, if you know the feet should be white or gray or beige-ish colored, depending on, like, the brand, they really need to color them like this. Every brand should be doing that. So you can see some of the improvements here to the newer design though, like on the XE, where I love these massive feet. I've always loved bigger foot on mouse, bigger foot better, right? Here you still have an older design, NP01S, because it's based on NP01, and NP01 was their original mouse. And then Outset, that looks basically the same as on here, except it's blue right now. And you really can't, unless they modified the shell design, you could maybe have this come across here. That's not really gaining you much. Here you could have a bunch more added, but what they've done, instead of putting this information on the cable, because the cable, as you can see here, is no longer necessarily going to be attached, because it's wireless. So they have to put it on the mouse, and that's what they decided. So at most, they could have squared these off, kind of like it is on the VAXEE XE, but it would be considerably smaller. So then the thought is, why bother messing with it, right? And don't change the feet. You can definitely see on the front of here, at the bottom, there's the rubber piece that pushes from the bottom of the casing into the rubber of the streamer relief on the built-in cable here. You can see that in the the Outset wireless, where instead of it pushing on the rubber strain relief of the cable, it now is turned into a USB-C port. Oh, you can see the switches in there. That's kind of cool. One thing VAXEE always does a very good job on is pre and post travel. There's a little bit of pre-travel there, you can see. I think the XE is probably better. It's definitely got post-travel. Pre-travel, not too bad. There's that much. And post-travel, yeah, quite a bit. On the Outset AX Wireless, there's that little bit of pre-travel there. That's barely anything. That's like flexing of the plastic, really. But as soon as you actually hit that switch, like, clicks, there is a significant amount of post-travel. Stuff like the XE is designed to take up a lot of that. You see those little like, look kind of like vents. That's so that the plastic can't continue to flex and keep going down farther than it needs to, right? You don't see any of that on the NP01S because it's an older design. So there's a little bit of pre-travel on there, like that much. Click. And the switch on this is much higher up in the body. Whereas on here, yeah, so that's where you generally get more post and pre-travel, is because you have a lot of leverage on where the switch is, which is probably right about there. Definitely feels good though. You know, the one thing I wish that was kind of on the XE that was a little bit better is sometimes if I grip up too much on it, I will bump the side buttons. Otherwise though, I love it so much that I just realized that I do that. It happens not even like once a gaming night. Maybe once or twice a week at most. And I just realized, oh, you gotta just grip up a little bit. Instead of having my finger flat like this, I need to go like that. And I can still hit it by rolling, right? But I don't hit the buttons then because I'm gripping more of my fingertip than I am like this. But something with like the Outset, I got miles, which is how I prefer it. It's just that there isn't the room there on the XE. There's definitely better and more travel, in my opinion, on the XE than the NP01S. These feel like way more flush and more like a push button clicky than. But you can even hear that the Outset has better side buttons. Ooh, they made them transparent as well. You can see the. See, they're transparent as well. So they're switching to that more. I'm not going to call it acrylic, but. Or that's just a black. Okay, so yeah, it's a little less transparent, and then maybe just because of the thickness of the plastic than the NP01S. But listen to this versus the XE. That front one's really nice. Back one. The further forward you hit it, the better, but like especially back here, it's got a lot of flop to it. Whereas both of these sound worse than the front button on the Outset. That one sounds amazing. But they're at least consistent. You don't get like this back button on the Outset's a bit wonky. And this does have that older design where this back one hooks more. I don't know if you see that. Like it hooks down more. Which is definitely better for rolling your hand up and hitting it. And it kind of like sits in the thumb area better. This much more subtle one on the XE or even the NP01S, I would say is preferred. Like where it's more of a straight line. You know, just for, let's give you guys a 360 here. There's a big butt with its raised up buttocks. And we got our side here. You can see see where it swoops in with our swoopy buttons. And we got our side angle. Quite a bit more height on that than say the XE. Let's bring it over. See that? Quite a bit more height there. Come around to the front. And you can see there like how much wider it is in the back than the front. We have the new front of the mouse there with the compatibility. You see they had to build it out with that lip too, because this was introduced on the XE there. So it was built into the design, whereas here They had to build up the front because of, and you can kind of see the beginnings of that in the NP01S. Maybe they found they need a bit more depth there because it was this one, then this one, then this one. So you can kind of see how this one was originally a wired mouse as well, where they've used that black plastic that would have pushed up on the rubber cable to house the USB-C port. But then if you notice, this NP01S does not have that lip around it like that does right there. So there must have been something they found where that was needed, like adding that little bit of extra depth, extra length. Because if you look at the original mouse, there would be no reason, or not even original. This is the slightly updated glossy one, the G. NP01S G, I believe. G for glossy, not G for green. I wonder what'll happen if they make a green mouse. Yeah, G. See? For glossy. So they can't use green. Maybe they'll use V for verde. Oh, what's green in German? But yeah, so you can see that there definitely is that change there. Scroll wheel wise, NP01S definitely has the skinnier one. The scroll wheel is just as recessed. Like they said, they purposely kept it that way to match the Outset's original design. If you look, it's a very flat scroll wheel. Personally, I am more of a fan. Like, I'm not gonna say the XE is the perfect mouse for me because, yeah, like I said, those buttons, they could go a hair higher and I'd be even happier. But this is a quite tall. It's not. There are definitely taller scrolls out there, but this is more the height that I like because when you run your finger over it, you actually hit it on the side. Whereas on the Outset, that is a much lower, flatter scroll wheel. What that also means though is you can't scroll as far. So your throw from here to here doesn't scroll as far on a page. Now, if you're playing three finger, this may very well be better because it's a more similar height to your left and right click. I don't know if there's any of you three finger players out there. Let me know if you prefer a taller or a shorter scroll wheel. And if you even use this style of mouse, because I don't know if the Outset's necessarily set up to be a three finger style mouse. Yeah, in general, same shape as Outset. So we'll go from here, and then we will keep on going. You can see once again the butt is much bigger than the front, with a nice ergo swoop that rolls over. You can see it just kind of like rolls over the back. With a nice rounded angled front, very similar to Death Adder, which is based on IntelliMouse 3.0, etc. Except this is, like I said, it's like a stubby version, sort of. I find the IntelliMouse 3.0 to be massive, not just in weight. Like we're talking like just a physically large mouse, and something like this will get you very similar ergonomics, in a way. That same style, but it's a much shorter mouse. Let's see. I think the XE is even longer. Yeah, so the XE is actually longer than the Outset. So it's a flatter, longer mouse by comparison. So that is definitely one thing that's kind of unique about the Outset, and always has been, is it's kind of like a short, more forward palm grip. Because the only other mouse that I can think of that's out at the moment that has like more of a higher up front focused palm grip, like where you got it, where it's like shorter in the front region and it's got a very tall back, is going to be the Prime, not the Prime Mini, just the Prime. Prime was, like the main Prime, but then it's got a very long back. So one technique I always use for aiming to go up and down very small mounts is like this with the hand, where I squeeze and release tension, which pushes it up and down like that, essentially, but like by a little bit. And all you have to do is go like this, right? You can make fine adjustments that way. With the Prime, you can't do that, in my opinion, at least with my size hands, because it's already going all the way down to the base of my palm right there. Whereas something like the Outset, you still get that taller, keeping the back of your hand off the desk, or your hand off the desk with the taller mouse. Basically, generally, the higher this back goes up like this, right? The higher that goes up, the more your hand will be off the desk. So the XE does have a little bit, and you kind of need a little bit. I actually don't like the mice that have no curl under here. Like, where basically they just come down the desk and are flat. I don't like that. The HyperX mouse, I'm trying to remember the name of it, is very like that, where it kind of like whoop down to the desk. And that's just not my style. I do need a little bit, of this sort of curl under, and a little bit of butt on it. That feels really nice to me. Like the Bolt from Fnatic also did a very good job of that. Whereas this is a ton more. And if you can see from here, it very slims out to the front, to even less to where the XE is. So, whereas this one's pretty consistent to get way near the back there. This one very much is way more on the ass end there, and then slims way up to the front. So, very palm forward, very right hand ergo mouse. Think of your rival 300 Intel mouse Explorer, not the optical. Like Explorer is more, or the optical is more my jam. Think of your Prime, your Prime, full size Prime wireless. Obviously Death Adder. Why am I like failing to think of like basic right-handed mouse shaped, or like a medium? Like, and that's the other thing is too, with this being shorter. Some of you that think like a Death Adder is too big, or EC2. Obviously, I'm a dum. EC2. I have a wireless one that I barely use. It was actually creating interference with my headphones because of that giant, ultra big antenna that they have for it. But yeah, like that style. If the Death Adder is too big for you, and an EC2 is too small, or you feel the grip size on an EC2 is too small, try an Outset. Whether it's the wireless one or the wired one, up to you. I do believe the wireless one lost some weight. They didn't specifically go out to really cut down the weight. That's never what they do. But they were able to just kind of like redesign it a little bit and reduce the weight on it, which is always nice. But yeah, if you're like the grip on the EC2 is just a little small for me, but something like a Death Adder is too big, and we're talking, when I mean Death Adder, I guess I should clarify, I mean the Death Adder V2, not the V3. The V3 is a very different, not very different shape. It's in the same like category, but like the Death Adder isn't really a Death Adder anymore. Just like the Viper, the new Viper V3, I believe it is. Yeah, the V3 Hyper Speed, I think is what they call it. That's really like an ambidextrous Death Adder now. Or an ambidextrous Death Adder V3. It's like they took the right half of the V3 and mirrored it. Which means I really like it, actually. It's right back there. And if it has managed to stay on the desk, yeah, that means it's half decent. So, I actually like, to be truthful, I like the Viper V2 a lot too, but that is probably one of my favorite shapes right now because I'm getting more, it turns out I've always been an ambi mice. There's like the Ninjutsu Katana, which is like a modern version of the Intel Mouse Optical. Turns out all mine are kind of like potato shaped. I call them potato mice. Whereas the Outset is very much in that same category, but instead of being ambi, it is, right-hand ergo. But that kind of points to why I like the, the XE, the Bolt, that category of mice as well. And it kind of splits the difference there with the new Viper V3. But we're talking, when I mean Death Adder, I mean like Death Adder V2 and older. So like, like the classic Death Adder shape, which is very much a derivative of the Intel mouse, but a little bit smaller, a little bit more ergo, and a bit more swoopy, like with the wings that come out, that sort of stuff. I know a lot of people that review mice don't like that about it, because they're like, oh, I can't grip up there then. And it does kind of force you into a specific grip. It just always happened to be that my hand very well fit that grip, even though I didn't main a Death Adder for many, many years. It was my LAN party mouse because I was the type of person that didn't want to unhook all my stuff, like my setup, just to go to a LAN party. So I just always grab a different mouse. And I don't know, it always ended up being a Death Adder, or that's because I had a couple of them because they used to give them away, like because they were so popular. Like I remember getting a gaming laptop and they just shipped a Death Adder with it. Like it was like a rebranded one, but nowadays brands wouldn't dare do that because they'd rather ship you their shitty version of some gaming mouse that they feel like they've invented and is way better. Whereas back in the day, that was kind of towards the end of that, but it was not uncommon. Like Dell would just ship Logitech mouse with Dell stamped on them. They wouldn't make their own stuff necessarily. Same thing with all the other brands like HP, etc. One of my favorite HP mice is actually it's a version of a Logitech mouse, and it's a very simple two click. Clicks are gray. Back of it is black. Translucent bottom. I have some of the original Logitech versions of that as well now. One in PS2 and one USB. Managed to save them. They were actually even in the fire at our Geek Squad back when I worked there. Those managed to survive, so I've kept them. They'll probably never die. So it's yeah, that's what they used to do. All the brands, like because like making a mouse back then wasn't easy. So you just go to a company that already made them and be like, okay, what's your like kind of cheap decent one? And like because you used to actually get half decent. Like the fact that your desktop computer back in the day would ship with like an optical mouse when most computers still had. I think you even have to pay a little bit extra, but at least like it'd still be way cheaper to get it that way than like going out and buying or like buying a wireless mouse. You know, but things have changed. That's basically a commodity product now, and like the stuff HP ships with their computers is like I don't even know if that can really even be considered a peripheral nowadays. Um, or I know Gateway would just do a lot of rebranded Microsoft mice. Like the classic one that's like the it's like the either a two button or the two button with a scroll later on, always with a ball on the bottom. I actually have one with an optical. They made one with the Intella Eye optical sensor. I own one. You guys might have seen it kind of show up in a couple videos. Still haven't unboxed it. I want to do that yet though, and bring it in and use it at work one of these days. But a lot of the Gateway mice were just those mice rebranded with Gateway on them in like a slightly different beige. Sometimes not even. Um, so that's kind of like the shapes I'm into. Um, and I know we went off on a tangent there, but so yeah, the Outset very much. If you're sort of into the like right-handed, obviously, if you're not into right-handed ergonomic mice, don't pick one up. If you like having your hand lifted off the desk, like imagine where you grip it, your hand literally is not touching. Like I'm resting it here. If I, for example, put this here, right? Just go to 0.5 zoom, and I rest my elbow on my armrest of my Aeron, and I go like this. My hand will not touch the desk. Some people game that way, right? Like that. I don't necessarily. I'm a lot of big swipes are arm, small swipes are wrist. Some of it's even like this, which is why I like the Outset shape, is because a lot of the bigger mice are so big in my hand that I can't like grip. Sometimes you just grip a little bit tighter, and that brings your shoot. Like I can even counteract recoil on weapons that way by just gripping up a little bit harder. Turns out real guns work that way too. You just pull a little bit tighter towards the bottom, and you can pull it down a little bit. So I work much that way, but like say with a Prime, which I actually really turned out, love the shape, love those maglev clicks on that thing. The only thing that was kind of hard for me to adjust to is my palm was already full. So if I would try to use the same technique I would on any of these other mice and just grip up more, I couldn't pull it in more because it was already fully filling my palm. Something similar happens to this Corsair mouse here, where if you look, it's already all the way. It's a long mouse. By comparison there. See, it is a long mouse. Here it is next to the Outset. It's even longer, sorry, the XE. It's longer than the XE. So this is a long, long, long mouse. Only mouse that I have kind of comparative to this would be the, and I have to pull it out, it's the Sentinel 3 from Cooler Master. This is actually a very similar shape to that. It might be a little bit wider here. I think it might skinny more up on the Sentinel 3, and the Sentinel 3 is an old mouse, but that was the first one that Cooler Master ever sent me for review. Thanks, guys. They've since changed branding, and I haven't heard from them in a long time. But for a long time, they were sending us all different kinds of products. And the first one they ever sent, kind of like, because the Sentinel 3, I want to say when they sent it, was already like well out of fashion, and I didn't have it. But they're like, oh, let's send you one that's not in your collection. And I was like, cool, let's do it. Because I literally have a DM from them, and they're like, why do you have Sony mice? Exactly. But I am so used to the XE that switching even to this guy, which height-wise is actually very similar. The only thing is the bump is much more forward. Here's this one. This one's like up here. So it's kind of closer to like a prime, but ambidextrous. Kind of interesting. Big downside to this. The controls are shit, and you have to use Corsair software. I know David and I did a video on it. This is the M75. It's actually one of Corsair's few good mice, I will say. But, ready for this? No DPI control that's not via the software. You're like, oh, you can just click this button. No, that's power. And then if you just click it when it's on, it switches between the dongle and Bluetooth. If you hold it, it goes into pairing. So, like, even turning it off is hard to the point where it constantly dies on me. And it feels very hollow. You can kind of hear it. Like, these barely click in. And it is a very light mouse, though. I'm so used to the XE, though, because I've used it for basically since it came out wired. And I've just sparsely in between used other mice. But with the Outset coming out, time to get that back in the rotation and see how I like it. The biggest thing for me is probably going to be the raising my hand off, because like I said, I like the fact that, like, I can also force my entire hand, like, by default, I don't have my entire hand touching, but you can just kind of push down a little bit more than you normally would, and your entire hand is touching. You can increase friction, like if you want to slow things down. Otherwise, if you don't, you just raise it up. That's why I like that little bit of lip on the bottom, what some mice don't give you. That go a little bit too far in my opinion. And then it does raise it up off the back just a little, enough for my meaty hand here to not scrape. Like that little bit of lip's good enough. So that whole thing where my entire hand is basically off the entire time is going to be interesting. And the front clicks of a Outset are, well, that should tell you there. But we shall see. We shall see. So let me know down below in the comments before, which one would you go with? XE? You know, VAXEE's most popular one for FPS shooters is the NP01S. I was actually more of a fan of the NP01, though I thought it was a very flawed mouse. This is a much more refined take on the NP01. It's just not in a direction that I personally like. Or would you go with the Outset, which, like in David's case, for the VAXEE mice, I believe this is his favorite shape, is the Outset, and he was really waiting for this one. He didn't end up picking one up when I did because of the fact that, what other mice did we get? The Thorn, the Fanatic X, whatever brand that makes the Thorn. He's picking that up as well as I am, as well as similar mouse I think came in or something. He's maybe eventually he'll pick one up, you know. But enough mice, and you know, maybe I should learn from him. Well, that's also why he didn't get the. He was originally looking at an M75, but then I wasn't, because I wasn't going to be buying one. But then they came out with this eraser yellow, high vis yellow limited edition, launch edition. Sorry. And then I had to pick it up. You know, there's the box over there. And let me know what you guys think. As always, if there's anything you guys have questions on, throw it down in the comments below. We'll try and answer them. If there's anything you want to see in a follow-up video, like what you want me, if there's something you want me to specifically try with the brand new Outset or any of the other mice, throw it down there. If you want to discuss stuff like this, we do have our Discord link down below, and you can find me as TheProfosist on your Twitter, Instagram, etc. Have a good one. Peace.